The main alpha male in my life. The newly licensed attorney rose from his seat. The prosecution called Mr. Reginald Smythe to the stand. Leaning on a walker on squeaky wheels, a man in his mid-30s shuffled to the witness stand. Handing him a Bible, the court clerk demanded, "Please state your full name." Placing his hand on the Bible, the man proclaimed in a sudden, squeaky falsetto, like a prepubescent teenager, "I am Reginald Smythe III," emphasizing the last part, as if it were some kind of earl's title. "Do you swear to tell the truth, only the truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do," Reginald squeaked. "Please sit down." Not too gracefully, the man lowered his ass onto the hard chair. The young lawyer cleared his throat before asking his first question. "Now, Mr. Smythe, can you tell the court how you sustained your injuries?" "I was visiting Mrs. Tammy Harris when her husband, the defendant, came up to me. He told me to cover my face and my heart. I can see that this is a very emotional memory for you. Take your time," the young lawyer said in a sympathetic voice. After a very theatrical pause and a pained look cast at the jury, Reginald continued. "Determined to preserve my life, I obeyed and covered my face and heart with my hands. A moment later, I heard and felt a shotgun blast." "And did that shot cause you any damage?" Reginald answered, barely holding back tears. "Yes, it seriously damaged many parts of my body. Fortunately, my intimate parts remained unharmed." After this confession, there was a mixture of sighs, whispers, and occasional chuckles throughout the courtroom. "And why do you think Mr. Harris did this to you?" The attorney representing Mr. Harris stood up, raising his hand from his seat. "Objection! Call for testimonial speculation." The judge immediately responded from behind his monumental desk. "Sustained. Counselor, please rephrase your question." "Mr. Smythe, did you provoke Mr. Harris in any way?" The prosecuting attorney from the other side came in. "Not to my knowledge, no. Tammy merely explained to her husband how we became lovers and what she liked." Oohs, ahs, and whistles erupted on the galley as this boastful statement from the victim rang through the room. "Moreover, she told him that henceforth he would not receive any love from her without my consent. She even invited him to watch us, but not to participate." "And where was Mrs. Tammy Harris when he threatened you?" asked the young prosecutor the next question. "She was lying on the stairs screaming in pain. Did you witness what happened to Tammy?" "Well, sort of. With one hand pressed over her heart area and the other covering her face, I heard Mr. Harris order her not to move or he would stuff her cheating ass with duckshot. Those were his words. And a second later, I heard a gunshot. I looked out onto the stairs, and it was clear that he had carried out his threat." "Mrs. Harris survived?" "Yes, Mr. Harris was limited to shooting her ass." "And then what happened? Did he turn his attention back to you?" The prosecutor continued his questioning. "Yes. He repeated his words, asking me my choice of living or dying, when I took my hand away from my face to see what had happened to Tammy." "At any point in time did the defendant seem crazy or behave irrationally?" "No. He kept his cool the entire time," Reginald stated confidently. The prosecuting attorney turned to the judge. "No further questions, Your Honor." Turning around in his imposing black chair to Merle's team of lawyers, the judge announced, "The witness is yours." "Mr. Smythe, you always had that squeaky voice. You know, like that famous amusement park mouse?" Immediately followed by the first shot from the defense. Reginald, with venomous distaste in his voice. "No, I had a normal voice until this defendant attacked me. And it appears from your testimony that Mr. Harris's shot did not hit your genitalia at all?" "No!" The indignant, though still falsetto-like shriek from the witness stand was perfectly audible even on the gallery. The number and volume of laughs in the hall increased. The judge swung his gavel and warned Reginald to behave politely in his court. "Can you explain to the jury what it means to be a bull?" inquired the defense attorney curiously. It seemed that Reginald's fierce, dagger-like gaze could pierce through that annoying man in the slick suit. "I satisfy women who are missing their husbands or boyfriends," Bull proclaimed pompously, swelling with importance. "And do these boyfriends or husbands agree with what you do?" "Not always, but I'm alpha-dominant male and I get my way," he smirked. "So you were a bull to Mrs. Harris as well?" After a brief pause, Reginald stuck out his chest and proudly proclaimed, "Yes!" There was an uproar in the courtroom, followed by the expected bang of the judge's gavel and a reprimand to the troublemakers from his master in the black robe. "And did you and Mrs. Harris inform Mr. Harris of this agreement of yours?" continued the interrogation by the defense counsel. "Yes, a few minutes before he attacked me." "Was Mr. Harris holding a gun at that time?" "No. When Mrs. Harris told him of our arrangement, he ran out the front door as if a little upset." "And what did you do after that?" "I went upstairs with Mrs. Harris to help her pack for our weekend together, and then, just as we were coming down the stairs, Mr. Harris came through the front door with 2 shotguns in his hands, and by the way, he pointed one of them at me," the alpha dominant declared indignantly. Holding a folder of documents in his hands, the defendant's defense counsel stepped forward a bit, pretending to study the records, and then asked, "Being a bully, according to the police report, did you immediately wet yourself?" The courtroom cackled, and even the judge smirked. Reginald, with his annoyingly high falsetto, immediately responded, "He was armed. I was scared for my life." "What was it? The urine that fright made your body suddenly spew. Did it help you deal with your fear?" The lawyer calmly pursued his line, striding around the jury and glancing furtively at the blushing Reginald. "You asshole!" Alpha Bull shouted over the barrier. The judge banged his gavel loudly. "Mr. Smythe, this is your second warning. One more outburst like that and I'll hold you in contempt. Do you understand that?" Humble response from a puffing Reginald, back in his seat. "Yes, Your Honor." "Good. Now answer the question." Staring intently with an annihilating gaze in the direction of the defense and enunciating almost syllabically, "This was urine." "Very well, if you say so," nodded the satisfied lawyer. Then he continued to develop his thought, backing it up with expressive gestures, staying halfway between Reginald and the jury. "It seems that Mr. Harris was in charge at the time of your excitement, as you put it." "Yes, the dominant male, while you were the weak one. As the dominant alpha bull, shouldn't you have just ordered Mr. Harris to take his proper pathetic place?" "He had a gun." Reginald III rounded his eyes. "I suppose you can only be a dominant man if the other man is unarmed?" "No, but I'm still a dominant male. I'm a bull." "In your own delusional mind," the lawyer sniggered. Then he delved back into his notes. "So, the report says that only your legs were hurt. I would have thought a bull could easily ignore pain," the police report buff suggested slyly. The urge to send the scalloped man away was cut short when Reginald thought at the last moment whether to bring another contempt of court charge against himself. However, the newly revitalized galley in the audience found it very amusing. If Reginald had that shotgun in his hands right now, this leech of a lawyer would probably join him in attending meetings of the Erectile Dysfunction Society. The defendant's attorney smirked. "Was your face covered when Merle told Tammy to stand still?" "Yes." "So you didn't see the shotgun accidentally go off?" The defender was still fighting the grin that was crawling over his lips, while Reginald struggled to squeeze it out. "No, I didn't." I see. And didn't you say that you covered your face with your hand the same way when the gun accidentally went off, hitting you somewhere below the waist?" "Yes, I covered my eyes with the palm of my hand." "So it follows that you did not actually see the defendant pull the trigger?" was the logical conclusion of defense counsel. Blood vessels swelled angrily on Reginald's forehead. No! So Merle could have put the gun down and it accidentally went off? No! As I felt the pain, both my hands quickly grabbed my crotch, and I saw Merle holding the smoking shotgun while grinning, the creep, from ear to ear. Still, I'd like to point out that you have no evidence of this. Moving on. The lawyer began flipping through the papers in the folder he was pacing back and forth with. The police report says... Wait a second. There. It says that you also pissed your pants. You know, shit all over your already injured legs. Was that before or after the accidental shotgun blast? Yeah. Pause. Pause again, and the killing-in-place stare. I remember! While Reginald gritted his teeth and poured bile, the defense attorney, doing his best imitation of the thin voice of a famous theme park mouse, addressed the judge. No further questions, Your Honor. Many spectators sitting on the gallery also practiced voicing the mouse's squeak, prompting much laughter from other observers gathered in the courtroom. After Reginald Smythe struggled to regain his feet and rolled his walker to the back of the courtroom, the young attorney representing the city stood up. The prosecution wished to call Mrs. Tammy Harris to testify. Leaning on a cane, a rather pear-shaped woman strode to the witness bench. Holding out a Bible to her, the clerk of the court demanded, "State your name, please." Placing her hand on the Bible, the lady said in a soft and sultry voice, "My name is Tammy Harris. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" "I do." "Please have a seat." Tammy carefully settled her weighty stern into the pathetically creaking chair, spreading her rounded knees no more than an inch or two apart. The dress she wore looked very conservative. "Were you present at the shooting of Mr. Reginald Smythe, who is present here?" The prosecuting attorney began his questioning. "Yes, he gave me moral support while I explained to Merle that Reginald was now the ultimate alpha male in my life." "Was the defendant acting insane or irrational?" the young lawyer asked, pointing to Mr. Harris. "At first, no. He didn't say anything at all, and then he ran down the stairs and just walked out the front door," the lush Mrs. replied, shrugging her shoulders and fixing her hair. "Mr. Smythe stated that he helped you pack your bags. Is that correct?" "Yes. Being a sexually attractive wife, I intended to spend the weekend with him." There was more chatter and giggles from the gallery, but no banging of the judge's gavel this time. "And just as you were coming down the stairs, you saw your husband again?" "My ex-husband now," she corrected the prosecutor. "Yes, he had a shotgun in his right hand, pointed at Reginald, and another in his left, pointed at the floor." "Your husband, excuse me, your ex-husband didn't seem out of control?" "No, he was perfectly calm." "Then why did he shoot you?" "He told me to stay where I was, but I got scared and tried to run up the stairs to the top. Then he fired once, hitting me, in the back of my body." The giggling from the back rows increased somewhat. "And what happened next?" Ignoring the gallery, the lawyer continued. "Then he shot Reginald." "Anything else?" "No. I must have blacked out." "No further questions, Your Honor." Once again, the smug, aspiring lawyer, chin cocked, stalked to his seat. The judge swiveled in his chair and announced to the defense, "Your witness." The spectacular woman, sitting on the other side of Merle, stood up and, clomping her shoe heels, walked over to the witness. The lady lawyer was dressed to make a striking impression on everyone present, and she succeeded. In the courtroom, it was immediately clear what the expression "hot, sexy wife" meant, and what she really looked like. "May I call you Tammy?" she asked the first question, stopping close to the witness stand. "Yes," the pear-shaped Mrs. replied, her lips curving out in a somewhat dismissive manner. It was obvious that Tammy didn't enjoy talking to the brilliant lawyer, much less the need to look at her. "Tammy, How many shotguns did you two have in the house? None. Do you know where Merle got those shotguns so fast? I was told he borrowed them from our neighbor. And how often did Merle practice shooting shotguns? I've never seen him shoot one, the ex-wife had to admit. So you can't honestly say Merle intentionally shot you or Mr. Smythe? But he did, Tammy exclaimed. But you didn't see it happen, did you? I was trying to save my life when I heard the shot and felt the terrible pain, ex-Mrs. Harris shouted angrily. Was that the shot that hit you right in the ass? Yes. I see it's still swollen, the lady lawyer innocently asked, as if stretching her neck out and trying to peek behind the witness barrier. A blatant "No!" shook the walls of the auditorium. The satisfied audience continued to cheer. Oops, my bad. I've never met a wife with a hot lead ass before. Was the target always this big? If looks could kill, the damn lawyer would have collapsed right on the spot, shot in many rounded places, and kicked off her outrageously chic shoes. Yes! Spat out an enraged Tammy in her direction. As you ran up the stairs, could you say with certainty who shot you? It was Merle. And did you see him pull the trigger? No, but it was Merle, Tammy insisted. But since you didn't see it, the gun could have fired accidentally? The spectacular lawyer was no less stubborn in her insistence. No, he deliberately banged it at me. If you say so, what happened then? He shot Reginald. Reginald said earlier that you were lying on the stairs and making the noises that a quacking duck makes when shot in a hunt. I object! The young lawyer rose from behind his desk. Oh, I'm sorry. Is the sound of a hot wife, as we've heard Mrs. Harris say, smirked the lady defender. So, you were moaning passionately on the stairs with a shot charge up your ass. Did you actually see Merle pull the trigger when Reginald got an accidental shot in his, bull dignity? It wasn't an accident. I was running up the stairs when I felt a kick from behind, and as I fell, a second shot rang out. Answer my question, please. Did you see Merle fire both shots? Again, the compressed lips and that annihilating look. No. The snarky lawyer continued her reasoning, pacing back and forth in front of Tammy's very nose and nonchalantly waving her papoose. Since Merle is not a skilled sniper, you either had to be very close to him, or your ample ass was a very large target for the entire load of duck shot to hit it. The police report, on the other hand, says that you were almost at the very top of the stairs, so, objection! Inappropriate remark. The young prosecutor jumped up and down as if on springs. I withdraw my question, Your Honor, smirked the malicious defense attorney. A seething Tammy was determined to get a voodoo doll to brutally torture the obnoxious woman in the very near future. So, Tammy, it sounds like you were trying to drive your husband crazy with all this talk of becoming a cheating girlfriend for another man. Was that your true intention? No, not at all. I was just describing the relationship that Reginald and I would have and how it would affect Merle. And you expected him to go along with that plan completely? Raised her eyebrows at the fool. Yes. He always let me have whatever I wanted, the former Mrs. Harris said condescendingly. So what he did can only be described as crazy, concluded the defense attorney. Objection. Leading question. Sustained. Rephrase your question, counselor. The judge spoke up. How many other times has your husband Merle gone crazy and accidentally discharged his weapon? None. Well, it looks like either you misjudged Merle or he was crazy. No further questions, Your Honor. Still tapping her heels and swaying her hips slightly, Merle's spectacular defense attorney sauntered back to her seat. Loud enough for the judge to hear, Tammy muttered, "Durah!" Immediately there was the clang of a gavel, and the judge's stern voice rang out, "One more of your antics, Mrs. Harris, and I'll hold you in contempt." Rolling her eyes and glaring fiercely at the lawyer, Tammy dragged her injured ass off the witness stand and took her former seat in the audience. Similar hemming and hawing with each other, as the prosecution called expert after expert broke out more than once. The defense attorneys then called several experts as well, and then moved on to Merle. The beautiful defense attorney rose at her desk. The defense would like to call to the stand the defendant, Mr. Merle Harris, to testify. After taking a seat at the witness bench and going through the procedure with the Bible, a question followed. Mr. Harris, do you remember pleading guilty to the charges against you? On the advice of counsel, I pleaded not guilty by reason of temporary insanity, Merle replied. And the expert psychiatrist agreed with you? No, she didn't believe I was insane. Not now, not at the time. Do you now own, or have you ever previously owned the shotguns mentioned? No, never. Have you ever fired such a weapon? To the best of my recollection, no. Were you present at the shooting of your ex-wife's rear end? To the best of my recollection, no. Were you present at the shooting of the front of Reginald Smythe? Not that I recall, no, Merle repeated like an echo for the third time. Mr. Harris, why did you divorce Tammy? The police told me that she and her lover were shot in my house. I'm sure our wedding vows never said either of us could have a lover. Since she apparently had a bout of temporary insanity as well, I decided it was best for me to cut my expenses. I don't see the point of staying married to a crazy cheater. No further questions, Your Honor. The business suit-clad beauty smiled at the judge as she smoothly retreated to her seat. Smirking at the young prosecutor on the way, the defense attorney gracefully lowered her tight ass onto the chair. Looking more than a little unsure of himself, the newly appointed prosecutor managed to control himself, pulled on his jacket, and took the floor. Mr. Harris, where were you the day your wife was shot? Is that when she was shot by the Martian beam? I don't even know exactly when that happened, so I can't answer your question. Oh, and by the way, ex-wife, mark it down there. Shot at. In your house, on your stairs, with a drobo wick. The ambitious young prosecutor lost his temper. Nah, I don't remember that. You don't remember shooting your ex-wife. Well, since I heard testimony that Tammy's fat ass was stuffed with lead bullets from a shotgun, and I don't remember ever firing such a weapon in my life, that must mean I didn't shoot my ex-wife. It seems simple, Mr. Harris said. Unable to blow the steam out of his ears, the exhausted lawyer began to sweat profusely. Why did you shoot Reginald Smythe? You mean photographing him? I don't remember doing that. Why would I do that? I'm straight, actually. There was another round of laughter from the gallery. The lawyer smiled, watching the fruitless efforts of her younger colleague. The lawyer himself was nearly bursting at the seams. Why did you shoot Reginald Smythe with a shotgun? I think I just answered that question, so turn your healthy ear to me, and I'll repeat myself. Merle leaned over the barrier and proclaimed louder than usual, I do not remember ever firing a shotgun. That, in turn, means that I did not shoot Mr. Reginald Smythe. As I recall, even Reginald himself testified that at the moment of the shot, he covered his face and simultaneously pooped his pants. The pure-hearted roaring of the audience from the back rows elicited several bangs of the judge's gavel and thunderous calls to order. So you don't remember Tammy telling you about how she became a hot wife to a bull? No, but I imagine how surprised I would be if she did. So you'd be so surprised that you shot her with a shotgun, cheered the revitalized prosecutor. Who knows? Mr. Harris waved his hands. Good thing I don't have a shotgun. A peal of laughter came from the gallery, causing furtive smirks among the jurors and another bang of the judge's gavel. It took the jury less than 2 hours to find Merle guilty, but only on the charge of reckless endangerment of life. He was sentenced to the time he had already served while awaiting trial, which ultimately allowed him immediate freedom. In the back of the courtroom, somewhere in the middle of the exiting lively crowd, someone in a rather squeaky voice, very much like that of one world-famous mouse, whined about the outrageous injustice of it all. The end!